Hello and welcome to The Pink Pod, i.e. the Condors podcast. This is a new experiment which we're starting because we want to help people to get to know the club. We've now got 350 members, which is huge. I don't know 350 people despite being the president of the club. And so we thought we would begin by recording a series of conversations that make use of an old name in the club, which is Meet the Condors. The idea is that we chat through and introduce a member that you might have heard of, you might not have heard of them, and we talk about who they are, what cycling is to them, and maybe a little bit about what they're planning for the year. So we hope you enjoy listening. Hello, Ella. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me.
No, thank you for having me.
So this is a new adventure, recording a podcast, and I'm very grateful that you said yes to my suggestion. I thought you'd be a brilliant guest to share with club members something of the things that you're doing, but also who you are, right? Who this person that they might have heard your name, but they have never ridden with you. So I'm keen to get a picture of Ella Brown the Condor.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm flattered. No, when you told me, I was really, really excited. I always think it's really great. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so it's always lovely just to hear more about people that you're essentially quite close to, being in the same club, but you don't actually know, or may not know as well as you think you do.
So tell me a little bit, to begin with, about your relationship to the club. When did you join? Why did you join?
Gosh, so I joined, I think, about 3 years ago, and I mainly joined because I wanted to make some friends. I moved back to Oxford. I actually grew up in the area, but I moved back about 4 years ago, I think, or no, 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And I was rowing, very different sport, but same muscle groups as I've discovered. And I stopped though, and I wanted to do something else. I had been cycling for a long time just recreationally. And yeah, I just wanted to make some friends. So I joined and went on a few club rides.
So who were the people that you met early on where you thought, oh, this is good, like I want to be a part of this?
So, well, actually, one of the first people who was already actually riding with the Condors, or started to, was Laura Ketteringham, I actually knew her beforehand because we rode together a lot, so I knew her well. And then probably the other Condors I would have been brought in by was Kristen for racing, James Illman, big ultra racer there, and who else? I think those are probably the main three people I remember from the beginning. And then the few friends I made at the start who got me into the racing alongside Kristen would have been Lucy Harris, who I actually was wonderful at the beginning, lent me a turbo as well, and I bought a bike from her actually, and Daphne as well. Yeah.
So you've got, some of the Condor grandees there in Lucy and Kristen, and big characters, and it sounds like it was quite an empowering experience.
Oh, it was lovely. It was really lovely, because another thing that was nice was to meet more women who cycle, which that is a really big thing. Of course, there's so many clubs I've been a part of that are mostly men, lovely men who you get on with and they're really nice. But of course, it is always nice to have a group of women to cycle with. And the last club I'd cycled with, I think, was the Cambridge University Cycling Club, which did have some women, but again, especially because it was a very sporty race, more race-based, a lot of guys on that. So, but it was really nice just meeting so many women, supporting women in racing, which was terrifying.
Yes, yeah, but it sounds like it was a different type of club to anything that you'd been in before.
It was. Well, it is. It still is. I mean, a lot of the cycling clubs I'd been a part of, but also other sports clubs like rowing, very focused on mainly racing and events, which is a big part of anyone who does a sport generally. Often there's a goal or there's something you want to do. But what I quite liked was I was looking for something that was much more casual, because I was taking a year off, particularly at that point, from doing any competitive sport. And I just wanted to make friends with people that had like-minded hobbies and such. Yeah.
I mean, it allows you to change your relationship to a sport, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Reminding you that it's not all about competitions and winning.
Yeah. And that making friends is going to be a reason that you carry on doing a sport, maybe? I don't know.
Well, absolutely. I think, your friends definitely drive. Like I said, Laura, who I went to the Condors before I did, I actually rode with her beforehand and we stayed friends. You meet people that have a big influence in your life and, potentially shape some of the things that you want to do. I was saying that, though, it was quite funny because I think now I spend most of my time riding alone, which has been a big change from starting off doing club rides at the weekends with lots of Condors, meeting lots of people, to now actually I probably spend most weekends riding by myself. They're still friends, I like to think. No, I do still see them.
So what's changed there? Because that sounds like your relationship with the club and your relationship with the bike has shifted a few times.
Absolutely. I think, when I joined the club, I had moved back. I was looking to kind of create that community that you want and that support system. And I was really enjoying cycling. So it was a really good way to find that. Whereas during my sort of time of getting into cycling, I've always cycled since I was a kid and done a lot of commuting, but never raced. And it was definitely in the Condors where I started racing and where I also got into ultra racing. And I think I found just an absolute love of kind of being in the middle of nowhere on my own without really a worry in the world. And it's a really nice feeling. It's very tranquil from going to sort of needing all of feeling like you need a lot of people and you need a lot of things around you and a lot of stuff happening, to then actually knowing that you do have those wonderfully important and special connections with people, but actually there's just, I don't know, there's something really tranquil and nice about riding alone. And now, it's a strange, actually, turnaround.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an interesting way you're describing it. Like joining a group, making good friends, having new opportunities has also given you back cycling on your own? Yeah,
essentially. I mean, it's sort of that kind of just calm peace you have. I don't know how to explain it. I think about like my weekend, and if I was to go on a ride, I just love just trying to ride somewhere new and just feeling very free and calm and content. I do love group rides still and riding with people, but it's definitely, for me, that's a social event, a catch up. I want to know what's going on in their life. I want to hear about what they've been doing lately. And it's less about the ride and more about the person. Whereas when I'm on my own, it is about me on the bike, the ride itself. You really ingrain yourself into what you're doing, and especially like whether it's just you're taking it easy, whether you're pushing, whether it's you're doing a monumentous climb. It's more about that kind of moment, and I find that really, just incredibly calming.
Yeah, calming's a good word, isn't it? Because cycling, as you've described it, is also really exciting. You're talking about thrills and racing and competing and digging in when the going's tough. But you're also talking about peacefulness and how do you think those things fit together for you?
Sorry, the excitement and the...
I was thinking about the excitement and peacefulness, like the thrills and spills of racing, and then peace and quiet.
I mean, they're two completely different forms of endorphins and fun, I guess. You know as well, you're racing, you've done a lot of racing, and I guess when you're doing whether it's like a crit race at Dalton or whatever your local racing scene is, to road racing versus just sort of cycling on a Saturday somewhere you love. I think, they're just two different types. The excitement from racing is one thing. If you're a competitive person, you sort of understand the fun of just trying to weed your way through a bunch and get to the front, and it's very playful, actually. One of the things I love about just doing Dalton is experimenting and playing around, where you have like take it in turns with your team to try and attack and try out new moves and just experiment with things. And it's a fast-paced, exciting, very different type of fun versus sort of you're going out on a Saturday and you just want to do a loop and it's a sunny day and it's beautiful and you just want to go visit a new place, and it's you're taking your time and you're just doing it for the love of something. But yeah, they're very, very different things, I think. But there's something wonderful in both of them.
Yeah, and it sounds like cycling has a breadth for you, where it's not just one type of activity, it's not just one sort of emotion or one set of bodily feelings. It can be exhaustion, or it can be relax, or it can be relaxation, or it can be fear, or it can be solitude, or it can be
Oh my gosh, I mean, you've named them all. Yeah, it can be everything. It's definitely, that's what's so wonderful about it. Like you said, so when you say fear and exhaustion, I think, yep, I can fit, and I know that exactly when you're doing an event or a race or an Audax or something, and you get to that point when you've pushed a little bit too far. But
also relaxation and peace, right? I mean, what a contrast.
I mean, it's funny you say that, because there's this one moment, and actually it's something I always come back to, mainly because I spoke about this with my therapist, about a way to, like, when things are getting stressed and overwhelming, thinking of like a place that's really calming for you and to bring you back down and ground you. And one of them is during the transcontinental race, and it was in Italy. Going over the gravel in the Strada Bianchi, and it was beautiful, and it was probably about 5 a.m. Nobody was there, and it was completely quiet, and it was a beautiful sunrise, and I just wasn't listening to anything. I didn't have anything going on. I wasn't really thinking, and I just remember feeling so calm. And then I also reflect back on that and think, I think it's probably because I hadn't slept properly in about 10 days, and I was so exhausted and so tired and burnt out that I just didn't have the capacity to do anything.
You were relaxed like those Duracell bunnies when they're just
exactly.
Flopped.
You're forced because you're so exhausted. But then I tried to use that anyway as well. As it was definitely, I was really calm and tranquil.
Yes. So I guess to go back to the start of cycling, you mentioned that you cycled as a child. I wondered, can you remember learning to ride a bike?
I can. I remember having a bright lime green, it's a very prominent colour in my childhood, I don't know why, but a bright lime green bike with stabilizers, I think. And my dad helping me learn. Actually, I grew up in Abingdon, so not too far from here, on one of the residential streets.
So you learned out in the street?
Yes, yeah. The middle of the road, which now seems really dangerous, but actually it's a very quiet road.
Yeah. And how old were you, do you think?
I can't actually remember my age, but I was in primary school. So I remember doing cycling proficiency tests before I finished primary. So sometime between, I don't know, the ages of maybe 5 and 9.
Yeah. And how did bikes grow up with you? How did that change?
So they kind of left me in teenage years. I didn't really cycle much other than to school. I did love cycling in primary school, but yeah, they left in secondary. I did a lot of dance and a lot of field hockey and rugby and a lot of other sports, but not really cycling at all. It just, it disappeared. And then I think I started cycling again purely for commuting basis. I got a job after school for a bit after my undergrad in Oxford. And so I just started cycling from Abingdon to Oxford because I absolutely hate getting public transport. Whether it's a bus or a train, I'm not a fan. And if I can cycle, I'll do that instead.
So you came back to it as a utility cyclist, really, rather than thinking, you know what, I miss riding my bike.
Yeah,
it was
that's
more,
really boring, isn't it?
No, I don't think it is at all. I mean, I spend the vast majority of my time riding bikes to and from work or for work, but yeah, I think I don't think that's boring at all. When do you think it turned into a leisure activity again, or a space for competition to let that part of your personality grow?
Probably when I was living in Cambridge and I was doing my PhD. Although I was spending a lot of time rowing, I wanted another outlet or another something else I could do on the bike. And it was actually my friend Sarah Carden, who has always been into cycling. Her dad loves cycling and does lots of gravel, and she grew up with it, and she loved it. And I met her, and she'd had a bit of a break because she's very interested in horses, and but she's came back and she got me into it. And I borrowed my mum's bike because my mum had a bike that she never used, and I think I went on my first ride with her, like I guess more leisurely for fun ride then, and it started building from there until and we just went on long rides. And actually I did my first ever bikepacking trip with her. So actually, really, I should thank her for getting me back into cycling.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Yeah. Good job.
No, we did our first bikepacking trip together in Yorkshire Dales, which was lovely, and that was really
So you
fun.
started easy. Like all of those hills.
Yeah, so I didn't really realise what I was getting myself into, considering that for the past year we'd started cycling in Cambridge, which is the flattest place in the UK.
You'd done your base training just on the flat, and then you went to the Yorkshire Dales.
And she wanted to do some of the Tour de France climbs that had happened, and the one thing I tend to do is I have a lot of over-optimism and blindly just say yes. Yeah, why not? And never really think until afterwards. And then I look back and go, oh yeah, that was actually quite a lot to agree to.
But that sounds like that's given you all sorts of opportunities, being a person who says yes to things.
Oh, definitely. I think you just have to say yes to everything. And it's something that I think is so important, whether you're doing something for fun and it's just a holiday, or you're racing or something else, is just try it, see what happens, because every time I have absolutely loved it, the outcome. Even if I've been in tears, which there have been times, I have definitely been in tears, but I look back and I still think that was amazing.
And that you did the right thing by saying yes to it.
Yeah, because you also learn your limits that way as well. Even if you're doing, say, or just a really long day ride, I think until you try, you might not know how far you can get, and if you're going to enjoy it, which it turns out I really do. I think I just like pain, maybe, and that's the problem. So every time I do something and I get in pain, I'm like, oh no, but that was really good.
Yeah, I like that. More
lying
of that.
to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, you've already mentioned it once, and we gave you an award for it, in fact, Transcontinental Race, because that's, I think, for a lot of people into long distance riding, a lifetime goal. It's a peak event, right? It has prominence, it has prestige, it's the kind of thing that people talk about. This is not your first podcast, right? I've heard you on a podcast. Tell me a bit about it, because you've already spoken about pain and about really pushing your limits, and I feel like the TCR is in the background here.
I mean, it is an incredible achievement just to attempt, let alone even finish. And it was, I don't know how long. I think I'd been thinking about doing it for about a year before actually going, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. And actually one of the reasons I did do was because of the push for women, mainly because it seemed like a really good opportunity to do it. And I mean, yeah, it was incredibly difficult. And ask anyone who's done it, and they'll say how hard it is. And I think one of the hardest bits I remember, which was quite funny, is that I think the hardest bit was actually the days before leading up to it. Those couple of weeks, sorting out last minute decisions, trying to decide on what you're going to take, what tools you're going to take, what you're not going to take, panic changing routes, all of those things, all the way up to just literally on the day getting to the start line. I just remember being an absolute ball of nerves. I was a wreck, and I honestly think, actually, I look back and people always say this and you don't really believe them, or I didn't at least, that the hardest bit is getting to the start line. But it really is, because once I started, after about 4 or 5 hours in, I was like, oh, I'm just riding my bike. Oh yeah, I do this all the time. This isn't hard. I mean, obviously it got harder.
Yeah.
When the lack of sleep, the tired legs, then when all the mechanicals happen and everything goes wrong, and the pains in your body, and then it does start to get very, very hard. But it's interesting, the two different things you have to actually overcome is not only the physical and mental aspect of doing the race itself, but also just getting there to the start to give it a go. And it's funny because I remember the first ultra I did, which was All Points North, and I was so less prepared than the TCR. I had not thought of so many things, which is why it is probably wise to start with smaller ones than go all the way to the big 5,000 kilometer ones. And I should say All Points North is a 1,000 kilometer ultra race around the north of England. And I look back and I was a lot less nervous. I was nervous and scared, but a lot less, but I was hugely ill prepared. And so actually it is interesting, the stuff you learn by doing that to get you to those bigger races. And I mean, anyone who does the Transcontinental as a first off ultra, I'm just kudos. That is, I'm sure there's someone.
I mean, you're describing these sort of life-changing events, like the magnitude of them is big, enormous. Has it changed cycling since then? Or has it gone back to what it was before? Like this was an aberration. You were happy riding, then you did these enormous events, and then it's kind of gone back. Or has it never really gone back?
I mean, probably yes and no in both senses. It's not gone back in the sense that it just makes me want to do more. And I have the sort of urge to then keep doing this, like my plans for this year of some of the things I would like to do. It's in my head is bigger and bolder, and it definitely does spur you on. But I mean, it's not, for example, now you look back at doing what might be if you did a 100-kilometer ride on Saturday, which is a really long ride for some people and not for others. Like for me, that has changed hugely in my perception of it. Absolutely, that's changed, and it probably won't go back. But at the same time, I still really enjoy just the really simple rides that I do with friends and started from the beginning. Those still, that hasn't changed.
So yeah, there's a central experience, and it's almost the sense of scale that's changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that, because I think it was, oh my gosh, when at some point I was reflecting actually on this last year, and I was thinking back to, when I did my first 100-kilometer ride, and that was such an achievement that, and it is for anybody.
It's a long way.
It's
right?
a really long way. And then when you think back of like, okay, and then you do a 300-kilometer Audax, and then it's 1,000 kilometers, and then 5,000 kilometers. It's like, wow, that escalated. But it shows how everything, like you start small and it goes bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, I mean, I still still think any 100-kilometer ride is an achievement.
Mm-hmm.
It's, especially depending on where you're at, or if you're like recovering from injury or anything, or just starting out, it's, small things.
I'm wondering, the story you've told me is about the scale changing as it gets bigger and bigger. You realise you're capable of more and more. Have you ever tipped over and thought, you know what, that's enough, or that's too much?
Well, I mean, at the end of 2025, I definitely hit breaking point. I hugely burnt out and was very exhausted. And I had definitely not taken enough time recovering and resting, and actually ended up being signed off work and taking some time off, not just from cycling, but from everything. And it's interesting that a lot of these big cycling races and events and things people want to do, they're sort of thrown at you in social media, and lots is happening, and it's sort of, you feel this need, well, you want to, but also feel this need that you should be doing something more, which of course you shouldn't. You don't have to. You do whatever makes you happy. But I think I definitely took on a bit too much. I had a lot of events lined up last year. I was racing probably most weekends, and also training for ultras, doing the Transcontinental. And I took a break at the end to have a training break and a cool down, and I took a month off, and then I tried to come back to start winter training, and I just completely broke. I did not have the capacity for anything. And it's interesting because after talking a lot to people, I think a lot of it was not necessarily physical, because I'd taken that time to rest, but was actually mental exhaustion is what we sort of came down to deciding on what it was. There's a lot that happens in a year, and it's hard to process everything whilst it's happening. And I definitely hit that point where I had to stop last year, and reminded me actually how important rest and recovery is. So it's interesting you say what the goal is, because I've only just started cycling again this week, after I did do cycling over the last 6 to 8 weeks, but only just started training again this week. And I think I did an hour turbo today, and I was really tired afterwards, really tired. But it's having those small milestones of like, right, where are we going to go this year, and build that back up. But
I mean, that's a really interesting thing to hear, because we hear a lot about people's the high points, right? The great achievements, the impressive stuff, but the idea that we might also pay attention to the difficulties that produces, the debt in terms of fatigue that accumulates, psychological, emotional, physical. We don't hear so much about that. So have you got a sense of what this steady recovery and return looks like, having been hit by it in the face?
Yes. Combined with my New Year's resolution as well to relax more.
Okay, all right.
No, I do. I think I have to. For the sake of my body as well as my mind, I've definitely having a delayed start to this year with regards to racing, but also taking it a lot slower, and realizing that I can't cycle all the time and work a 9-to-5 job, and it's just not possible. So I'm sort of looking at doing a lot less hours, and also a lot less events. I think I did, I had some form of gravel race or Audax or something every month. I don't have that this year. I have, I think, 2 goals. I'm reduced it from about 10 to 2, okay. Which probably would have been smarter to start with, and just having a lot slower start. But also, actually, going back to why I started cycling, which is what we were saying, I guess, at the beginning. I joined the Condors to make friends, and actually one of the things I want to do this year more is see more friends, be with more friends, whether it's on the bike or not on the bike, whether I just meet them at the coffee place, and do more of that, because I sort of almost need to go backwards a little bit gain that perspective again.
I think what I'm hearing is partly that it's difficult to wean yourself off goals, targets, achievements.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not sure how if you set lots of goals, but I'm definitely a goal orientated person. I always feel like I need to have a target to work towards, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But of course, if you get too consumed by the goal and you just forget about other things that there are in life.
So what does the goal do for you? Because it sounds empowering until it's not.
I guess I always want to challenge myself. I'm always wanting to push myself or see how far I can go until I break.
It's an opportunity to learn something about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hugely. I guess you want to grow as a person, or you want to just learn and discover new things. And to do that is to sort of set targets or goals that align with what you're interested in, but that, you're not sure whether you can actually make it. And like with anything, all the things I've entered, I think a lot more people have faith in me than I do myself. Because a lot of the things I enter, I genuinely, when I'm starting, I'm not sure I'm going to finish. Or I'm not sure I'm going to do well. I genuinely don't believe that I will, and that's why I want to see if I can though. And yeah, so having goals, it pushes you.
Do you draw anything from other people's confidence? Some people might find that quite intimidating, feeling like everybody's watching me, or they expect so much of me. Other people might find it very empowering, like, well, they know me and they think I can do it, so how hard can it be? What's your relationship with those perceptions, the perceptions of other people?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of the racing that I do, I probably couldn't do without the just genuine support of everyone in the Condors. The Condors have been amazing. It's wonderful that even though I started racing with another team as well, that, the support is just still for the ultras and everything, well, just generally everything, has been wonderful. And then all of my friends and my other teammates, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you get nervous about something, just chatting it through and hearing that people are like, you'll be fine. People need that. I think everybody needs that, but it definitely helps me get to that start line and think, no, I can do this. If I can get get the time I want or the place I want, that's another thing. But yeah, getting there, definitely having the support. I don't think though I'd ever say I feel like there's a pressure or in any negative way from people watching. I think there's most of the riders I know are so kind and supportive of everyone to just have a go at things. And if I ever had a worry about a race, I know of so many people I could message, and there'd be people that would walk me through it in a logical way, giving advice about the certain corner that you need to take or when the attack's going to happen, if it's a road race, for example, or in an ultra situation where they'll say, no, like talk through, like, you'll probably be fine without this kit, and like just generally calming, don't worry, you'll just take it day by day. And I think, yeah, it's a really great community, cycling. I think that's why something that definitely also draws people in is that, unlike other sports, there's just so much support regardless of if you're racing against them or not. I find that I don't know if you find that with regards to men's crit racing and road racing from your experiences, but women definitely at road races, there are women on other teams that would always be there to offer support, and that's really nice.
My perception, I mean, really, yeah, I'm keen to hear from you, but I wonder whether it's helpful to say from my sense from the men's race looking over at the women's races that there is something very empowering because this is a smaller group, right? You turn up at I don't know, a crit race, and there will be, I don't know, maybe a quarter, if you're lucky, as many women as there are men.
Yeah.
And so there is that certain sense like we're all in it together. Like you are a team, that you're making it possible to do this.
Yeah.
I've certainly been to races where there are not enough women to really have a race. And so you sign anyone and everyone up that is there so that you can do this thing. And that feeling that we're making this possible for each other, we don't get that with the men because it's just not structured like that. So that's always something that I think about.
That's a really good point. I don't think I've ever thought about it like that, but you're right. When there's, I guess, so many riders, you couldn't possibly know all of them, and probably even more so makes it a lot more daunting. Whereas when there's such a smaller field of women, you're right, you get to, especially if it's a regular local race, you get to know everyone pretty quickly, which also makes for very fun racing though.
Yeah.
As well, because you also get to know how people race and ride their bikes, and you can remember, which definitely probably changes the race itself.
So one of the things that this reminds me of is when the people who I've grown to know outside of teammates are those people I'll say get in a breakaway with, because then it's automatically a smaller group and you have a common purpose and you're working together, and then of course the end of a race means that you turn into mortal enemies and think, how can I beat you? But that does draw you closer because you're a smaller number. And that's interesting. Anyway, back onto you. So you've mentioned a few things so far that you turned away from or did less of when you came to riding more, but one of the questions that I often think about is what are the hobbies you're doing when you're not on your bike?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I do a lot of drawing. I love artwork, and and what's actually been quite nice is I spent the last couple of months doing so much drawing. I
can see that means something. I see in your face that means a lot to you.
It's actually, drawing's probably the hobby I've had the longest. Because obviously cycling I stepped away from and came back to in my late 20s, or mid-20s. But no, drawing, I've been drawing since I was a kid and never stopped. And I've always carried around a little sketchbook with me just to doodle on, more so. And I got really into drawing when I was doing my masters. I was having to remember all of the anatomy, so I would draw it out because I'm such a visual learner. I don't like words or writing at all, so I would draw everything out to try and remember for all of these practical exams I had. So no, definitely drawing. And I have started drawing more bike related things, so that cycling's definitely, whether it's sort of a mountain landscape of a famous cycling place or a bike itself, it's definitely crept in there.
I'm wondering what that's like, what that gives you, why you go back to drawing.
I think it's so therapeutic, and a bit, I was going to say monotonous then. That doesn't sound very interesting when I describe it like that. But no, I think it's really therapeutic because I do a lot of drawing with pen and dot work, and it's almost kind of like doing, for me, some of the stuff I draw now, which is a lot of anatomy, a lot of skulls, funnily enough. I'm working actually on a Ep1 skull drawing. It's huge, and I started it over a year ago, and I think it might take me another year to finish.
Oh, wow.
Just for me. But it's kind of, to me, I think it's kind of like doing a puzzle. Like, I just sit down for an hour in the evening and just go straight back to it without thinking and just draw, maybe put on a podcast whilst I'm doing it, and then just leave it. And it's just been sat on my drawing desk for over a year now. It's slowly getting there.
So monotonous is an interesting word because it makes me think about riding ultras, right?
That's a really good point. Yeah, it does. Maybe I'm very much attracted to very just long.
Something about it being, calming, peaceful. I guess we're coming full circle. Yeah. Calming and peaceful, mechanical. It's bodily engagement. You can't win your race with one pedal stroke. Like it's done over time. Like it needs to unfold at its own pace.
That's a really good point. Absolutely. There's definitely a lot of similarities to that. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's one thing I think I've learned about myself from maybe not so much the drawing, but cycling is my ability to just keep my mind, or just to focus in on something. Like, I love seeing people and interacting with people and going places, but sort of just finding something to focus on, which is nice. But got monotonous, that word now stuck in my head.
Yes.
Trying to think of other hobbies I do. I was like,
well,
do I have any that aren't monotonous?
Monotonous is not a positively laden word, but I think we're talking about a positive experience, right? We're talking about focus, we're talking about maybe flow, all of those things, immersion, being like sunk into something.
Hugely.
So we've gone a big circle from those experiences of what it's like riding for you, from calmness and peace, all the way through to other hobbies, other kinds of experience, and I think that forms a nice loop to begin to close up. I'm wondering what the goals are this year. You said you have only 2, yes. But I don't know what either of them are.
So I guess they're based on, I want to be more competitive in the long distance. So I'm actually still looking at ultras, but doing shorter ultras, but trying to do them faster and place better. So they're coming up in May and June. So the first one that I think I'm set on is Wild West Country,
which I don't know.
It goes down towards Cornwall. I think 2 Condors, maybe more though, because there's so many of us.
There'll be more when you arrive.
I've done it in the past.
Okay.
I think John Hale and Anna I've forgotten her surname. Calvis.
Yes,
Sorry, Anna.
Carlquist.
I've butchered your surname.
Anna Carlquist.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, there may be more. As well as thinking about doing the solstice sprint. So looking at doing shorter ones, but I want to just try and do them harder and faster and see how I can do. I'm also setting my eyes on trying to do a fastest known time, but I'm not going to tell you what one.
Oh gosh, that's really that. I think it's only more exciting because you're not going to tell me. Okay.
Mainly because I'm still deciding between 2, and I want to recce them before I decide which one. So doing a few recce's in the beginning of the year. To then do that later.
Are you going to share whether they are on-road or mixed surface?
They're off-road, gravel,
right?
esque. Well, maybe. Okay. Might be looking for a hardtail if anyone's selling one.
Okay, well, it's out there now. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for having a good conversation with me and sharing all of that stuff. No. So it's really lovely.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. No, it's lovely to chat.